Republic Act 11313, otherwise known as the Safe Spaces Act or the Anti-Bastos Law, an act addressing gender-based sexual harassment. This presentation is an excerpt from Chief Family Juvenile Gender and Development Division, Directorate for Police Community Relations, Philippine National Police Camp Crame, Police Colonel Gemma C. Venluan. RA 11313 is previously known as Bawal Bastos Bill, which was signed into law on April 17, 2019 and published for public notification for 3 to 4 months. It took effect on August 3, 2019. RA 11313 is an act defining gender-based sexual harassment in streets, public, online, workplaces, and educational or training institutions, and provide protective measures and prescribing penalties therefore. In RA 11313, public spaces referred to places that are open to public except churches and hospitals. Those establishments that are open to public must be as zero-tolerance spaces to gender-based sexual harassment. Also, these establishments requires CCTV cameras, posted hotlines, and designate one anti-sexual harassment officer or ASHO for the safety of the establishments and the visitors. If the sexual harassment has taken place, the owner must provide CCTV footage to assist the victim and the PNP for the investigation. Catcalling is an unwanted act or remarks directed to a person, commonly done in form of wolf whistling, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist slur. Misogynistic. It is characterized by hatred or prejudice against women. Transphobic. It is any statement in whatever form or however delivered that are indicative of fear, hatred, or aversion towards person whose gender identity and or expression do not conform with their sex assigned at birth. Homophobic remarks or slur. Any statement in whatever form or however delivered which are indicative of fear, hatred, or aversion towards a person who are perceived to be as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and such other persons of diverse sexual orientation. Other acts that constitutes violation of RA 11313. Public masturbation is a stimulation of genitals with the hand for sexual pleasures done in public spaces. Flashing of private parts. Groping or any advances. It is an act of feeling or fondling someone for sexual pleasure against their will. In addition to the penalties in this act, the Land Transportation Office may cancel the license of the perpetrator found to be committed acts constituting sexual harassment in public utility vehicles or PUVs, and the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB may suspend or revoke the franchise of the transportation operators who commit gender-based streets and public spaces sexual harassment acts. Gender-based sexual harassment in public utility vehicles or PUVs were the perpetrator is the driver of the vehicle shall also constitute a breach of contract of carriage, for the purpose of creating a presumption or negligence on the part of the owner or operator of the vehicle in the selection and supervision of employees, and rendering the owner or operator solidarily liable for the offense of the employee. In cases the offense is committed by a minor, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, shall take necessary disciplinary measures as provided under Republic Act No. 9344, otherwise known as the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2006. Section 11. Specific acts and penalties for gender-based sexual harassment in streets and public spaces. The following acts are unlawful and shall be penalized as follows. For such acts, such as cursing, wolf whistling, catcalling, leering, and intrusive gazing, taunting, cursing, unwanted invitations, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist slurs, persistent unwanted comment on someone's appearance, relentless request for someone's personal detail, such as name, contact, and social media details, or destination, the use of words, gestures, or actions that ridicule on the basis of sex, gender, or sexual orientation, identity, and/or expression, including sexist, homophobic, and transphobic statements and slurs, the persistent telling of sexual jokes, use of sexual names, comments, and demands, and any statement that has been made an invasion on a person's personal space or threatens the person's sense of personal safety. The first offense shall be punished by fine of 1,000 pesos and community service of 12 hours inclusive of attendance to a gender sensitivity seminar to be conducted by the PNP in coordination with LGU and the PCW. The second offense shall be punished by arresto menor, 6 to 10 days, or a fine of 3,000 pesos. The third offense shall be punished by arresto menor, 11 to 30 days, and a fine of 10,000 pesos. For such as making offensive body gestures at someone and exposing private parts for the sexual gratification of the perpetrator with the effect of demeaning, harassing, threatening, or intimidating the offended party, including flashing of private parts, public masturbation, groping, and other similar lewd sexual actions, the first offense shall be punished by a fine of 10,000 pesos and a community service of 12 hours inclusive of the attendance to a gender sensitivity seminar to be conducted by the PNP in coordination with the local government unit and the PCW. The second offense shall be punished by arresto menor, 11 to 30 days of imprisonment, or a fine of 15,000 pesos. The third offense shall be punished by arresto mayor, 1 month and 1 day to 6 months, and a fine of 20,000 pesos. For such act as stalking or any of the acts mentioned in Section 11, paragraphs A and B, when accompanied by touching, pinching, or brushing against the body of the offended person, or any touching, pinching, or brushing against the genitalia, face, arms, anus, groin, breasts, inner thighs, face, buttocks, and part of the victim's body, even when not accompanied by acts mentioned in Section 11, Paragraph B and Paragraph A. The first offense shall be punished by arresto menor, 11 to 30 days of imprisonment, or a fine of 30,000 pesos, provided that it includes attendance in a gender sensitivity seminar to be conducted by the PNP in coordination with local government unit and the PCW. The second offense shall be punished by arresto mayor, 1 month and 1 day to 6 months imprisonment, or a fine of 50,000 pesos. Third offense shall be punished by arresto mayor in its maximum period of fine of 100,000 pesos. Section 12. Gender-based online sexual harassment includes acts that use of information and communications technology in terrorizing and intimidating victims through physical, psychological, and emotional threats, unwanted sexual misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist remarks and comments online, whether publicly or through direct or private messages, invasions of victims' privacy through cyberstalking, and indecent messaging, uploading and sharing without the consent of the victim, any form of media that contains photo, video, voice with sexual content, any unauthorized recording and sharing of any of victims' photos and or any information online, impersonating identities of victims online, or posting lies about victims to harm their reputation, or filing false abuse report to online platforms to silence victims. Section 14. Penalties for gender-based online sexual harassment. The penalty of prison correctional in its medium period of fine of not less than 100,000 pesos but not more than 500,000 pesos, or both, at the discretion of the court, shall be imposed upon any person found guilty of any gender-based sexual harassment. If the perpetrator is a juridical person, its license or franchise shall be automatically deemed revoked, and the person liable shall be the officers thereof, including the editor or reporter in the case of print media, the station manager, editor, and broadcaster in case of broadcast media. An alien who commits gender-based online sexual harassment shall be subject to deportation proceedings after serving sentence of payment of fines. Exemption to acts constitutes or penalize and gender-based online sexual harassment are authorized written records of the court for any peace officer to use online records or any copy thereof as evidence in any civil, criminal investigation, or trial of the crime, provided that such written order shall only be issued or granted upon written application and examination under oath or affirmation of the applicant and the witnesses may produce, and upon showing that there are reasonable grounds to believe that gender-based online sexual harassment has been committed or is about to be committed, and that evidence to be obtained is essential to the conviction of any person for or to the solution or prevention of such crime. Any record, photo, or video or copy thereof of any person that is in violation of the preceding sections shall not be admissible in evidence in a juridical, quasi-judicial, legislative, or administrative hearing or investigation. Article 3. Qualified gender-based street, public spaces, and online sexual harassment. Section 15. Qualified gender-based streets, public spaces, and online sexual harassment. The penalty, next higher in degree, will be applied in the following cases. If the act takes place in a common carrier or public utility vehicle or PUVs, including but not limited to jeepneys, taxis, tricycles, or app-based transport network vehicle services, where the perpetrator is the driver of the vehicle and the offended party is a passenger. If the offended party is a minor, a senior citizen, or a person with disability or PWD, or a breastfeeding mother nursing her child. If the offended party is diagnosed with mental problem tending to impair consent, if the perpetrator is a member of the uniformed services such as PNP and the Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP, and the act was perpetrated while the perpetrator was in uniform, and if the act takes place in the premises of government agency offering frontline services to the public and the perpetrator is a government employee. With this will be the end of my presentation. This is Police Corporal Miriam Laurente Lapurga, PICAD, CPSMU Action PNCO 304th Maneuver Company. Thank you.